I apologize, but here it is, my live video. Through a series of circumstances where I have been unable to um, get here on a proper time and place, has delayed my getting on here with you. I do apologize. So what I'm going to do is kind of wait for a bit. Oh, Kramer. Um, what I'm going to do, as I said, I may be here Friday night after 10 o'clock. So I'll keep this a bit short because I don't know who's going to show up or not. And I know this is a bit impromptu. Um, so recent events have been very incredible. We've had, um, I say we as in, all of us here, fellow researchers and all the rest. There have been some events that have taken place, which have been very productive in the research of electronic voice phenomena. Now, I don't know, um, how many times you get these ghost researchers out there that, they always fall back on the old EVP, electronic voice phenomena. And in this instance, this is what I've done. So we'll keep this a bit short. And just as I've touched base here, I was live here. I'm going to go ahead and shoot for a Saturday night, 10 o'clock, London, Greenwich Mean Time. And I'm going to try. All right. Well, like I said, I'm going to try for a 10 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, London time zone chat Saturday night. This Saturday night, and then I know it's short notice. I should do this a week in advance, but I just feel like I'd be waiting all week, going, well, there's so much I want to talk about without, you got that week, and you think, well, I know I've had so much going on in my personal life, because I am planning on moving from the location I'm in now, and moving off a park I'm in, and somewhere local in the town of Felixstowe. So I'll be leaving this lovely park without giving names. So why not do this properly a week in advance? Wait for this, wait for that. Well, because that has happened. When you drop the ball and you don't make an appointment, as you said to the public you'll be there, and you don't do it, there comes an instance where you have to just do an impromptu break. It's almost like the news do it all the time. Breaking news, here they just kind of break in. Here it is, and because there's been like a delay, and a delay, and I didn't get on here, and so it is like a breaking news. Here it is. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm live. Well, more or less. Wait, pulse. Yep, I'm live. So anyhow. So what's going on is that, I went back to the old EVP research, which is electronic voice phenomena, which, as you know, has been around since the days of the old tape recorders. And excuse me, I've had a very long day, and the results were quite impressive, quite shocking. Not surprising, but again, very, very intriguing. And what came over the digital recording was none other than the same voice that came over the spirit box over the last 7.5 years, over the last years. And I've got those recordings uploaded to YouTube. And it's the same voice, which is interesting and scientifically worth noting that it can be compared. It is the same, if you want to be forensic about it, the same entity, and female, and speaking in the same tone of voice, inflections, and everything, who identified herself through the spirit box as Beniico. So I was saying that was her name from my memory, and then she was confirming it through the spirit box, and then confirming her origin. And I don't mean race origin, I mean species origin, in the sense that she's not a human person, a human Homo sapien. So then there was a bit of confusion because, someone said, well, you're using spirit boxes and EVP that's normally conducted with dead people. Is she dead? And I says, well, let me point you back to some recently declassified documents released to the public talking about aliens from other dimensions, and how this has been thrown around, this has been looked at. Some are saying it may be genuine, it may not be genuine, but I don't have to fall back on that or rely on that as my evidence that there are beings in other dimensions that are reaching to us. My own research and experience tells me that. But so what I'm talking about, if anything, if there's anything to compare it with in public, is that in fact there's a lot of scientific theory and hypothesis about ETs may not be coming to us from other planets, but from other dimensions. Now that's a very broad thing to say when you say other dimensions, and I don't like the term dimension. Because it's not very accurate. It's in a sense of describing where the origin of they are, where they're coming from. More accurate would be to say that we're dealing with spheres of control or spheres of reality that are overlaying each other. So deceased people may enter that sphere, this other reality, and they're unaware of the fact that they are in fact physically dead, because they're able to stand in the same room with you, see what you see, hear what you hear, try to communicate with people around them, and some do, some don't. See some of the other deceased people and communicate with them, and not always. And then suddenly they seem to get pulled through holes in walls. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Good point. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't mean to be. I forgive me for being so utterly lengthy and descriptive. And thank you for. Yeah, it's like you're saying, well, we got it, and I carry on. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I completely agree. So I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of physicists trying to put this in an aquatic form. They're making some equations about that. I think there was a rumor Stephen Hawking was working on something similar before he died about this issue of these other dimensions and how to reach them. I don't want to put conspiracy on that man's death. He was dying and his suffering is over. But I mean, I'm just going to say it's a coincidence that Dr. John Mack, who investigated alien abductions, but just prior to his death in London when he was apparently hit by a car, the great psychiatrist was in fact investigating the very same thing, which was aliens coming to us from other dimensions. That he was getting into something called interdimensional communication. Now, because he was a Pulitzer Prize winning psychiatrist from Harvard University, and if he says that and he says this, that's going to catch attention. But Jason Moss says it, or ordinary folk like me say that, and it's going to take not much notice. But a lot of my work I've been trying to carry on in his memory to continue here in England, where Dr. Mack was not able to continue to pursue that. So where we ended up in that was that first we start with a experiencer like myself, and we say, okay, the experiencer. There's the presumption that either these entities are around the experiencer, near, or in some proximity to the experiencer, with an understanding of spheres of reality overlapping each other. And so began calling out to Beniico this last week. And this happens after these visitations to the forest. Okay, so what ends up happening is she comes across one of my digital recordings when I asked, what is your name? And you hear her say, my name is Beniico. Upon closer analysis of that sound clip, it is a female, and she is saying that. And it is the same voice that compares to the Spirit Box session. And we're talking sessions that go back 5 years ago up in Ipswich, 14 miles away. That's intriguing. So there is this entity, around me that is of an origin that confirms the origins of the alien-human hybrids, and that their existence is real, that they do exist. And it was like, okay, after these recordings came in, I analyzed them, looked at them, and went back out and began to get more of these recordings that began to pick up. And she began answering questions pretty intelligently, very clearly through EVP sessions. And I've even picked up EVP sessions around where I currently live. So what she's saying to me is, in the EVP sessions that I'm going to be uploading here to YouTube, I've got to get them, the sound clips up to YouTube. And clearly there won't be a video, it'll just be a sound bite. So I wrote down some of the transcripts of that, and she's telling me what I can remember from many years ago. Your race knows us already, has known us for centuries, has called us fairies. That the legends of fairies are based in fact, are based on fact. And what the questions that have been answered, that there was some confusion about the memories about I remember her saying this, and then it seems like she's saying an alien-human hybrid, but are one and the same. The alien-human hybrid thing is quite a clinical and forensic term, and they don't go around calling themselves this. Though they know that the human race for a long time have known them by other names. But they're not, they tend to shy away from that very clinical forensic term, alien-human hybrid. In fact, they never, I never get I say, are you an alien-human hybrid in the EVP recording? I never get a response. I never get like, I'm an alien-human hybrid. What I get is, we are already known to your race, and we've been around for a long time. We are what you've been identifying us as, but we are what you would call fairies. We're what you would call, in legend and folklore, fairies. So first, there's lots and lots of things to cover in that area. One, she's speaking in clear English, monotone, in a monotonous tone of voice. It's like talking to a digital AI female android. There aren't many inflections in her voice. So, and the fact she's speaking English so clearly and etiquetely and quite articulated, again, everything is analyzed and looked at. So we're dealing with an entity that knows all of the English language entirely, back to front. Because I'm an American. I've got the American dialect and linguos and all like that, and she's coming across quite articulated and intelligent. So that's noteworthy. That they're educated, They know probably Chinese, German, they know Russian, they know every language on this planet, I would imagine. I don't think it's exclusively, and they're going to speak English, or that there's some special connection to, an American or Britain kind of thing. I think this is just because I happen to speak that language. If I spoke Korean, she would be speaking to me in Korean, but speaking to me better than I do. Um, and then she said to return to Forest to meet her there. So the point of this live video is just come on here just to say hi. I'm going to try to shoot for Saturday night, have a longer live chat, and I beg y'all's indulgence, please, on that. But yeah, she's asking me back to the forest to meet her in person. So that's quite extraordinary. Again, I kept pinching myself. I was like, am I hearing that right? Am I hearing that right? My God. One of the EVP recordings taken outside this little home I live in. I'm sitting out there on the grass, and just before she begins speaking, I hear footsteps of some light-weighted person walking in the grass around me, and I hear the wind blowing around me at the time of the recording, and when I play it back, I can hear that there's something going on in the grass. And again, that's interesting. That magnetic fields can create a resonance and vibration and that we don't hear with ears, but it can be picked up digitally in these recorders. So it's quite exciting, and again, it's a bit mind-boggling that this would be the case, that she's coming across so clearly, and the communication is very avid, very open. Now I asked her that question: "Are you in another dimension?" And she says, "Maybe so," which is interesting. She says, "Maybe so." Some of the other questions I asked, and it's stuff that only I knew about from the 1990s, around the time when I met her, and I'm asking those questions. Now, again, this is the thing that grabs people. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Jonathan Reed. I went to his conference here in England a while back. Now, some don't believe anything he says, some do. I kept an open mind when I went to his conference. Some say he's a man with another name. But after seeing his conference and what he was talking about, he spoke about a device called the Link that he said this alien had given him, and he put on his arm, and he became a mass of energy, and in the video he left the room in a ball of light, and then he returns a few minutes later and describes another reality that he went into. He said the aliens used this. Now, I had no prior knowledge that such a thing he ever said something like this before going to that conference. I had wrote in my notes that I remember Beniico talking about a similar technology that allowed her and her kind to move in and out of this unseen reality in a form of energy. The only way to describe how that could be done would be if you're dealing with very high-powered capacitances. In other words, the device could have been something like a super powerful capacitor that somehow strips away the electrons in your body, turns you into a mass of ions. You somehow, your molecular structure maintains its cohesion and falls back into its natural state when the device switches off. And so you basically would be returning or rematerializing into this lower dimension. Pretty advanced technology. It looks like it hurts when you put it on. It looked like it was painful. And I remember Beniico talking about how that they have technology that moves them in and out of those dimensions. So she's walking around me down here in Felixstowe. When I hear the footsteps, she's in an adjacent dimension that shares and occupies the same sort of space, but not exactly the same time. And so she's able to kind of perceive this reality in probably a subtle way, where the surfaces of the earth, for example, that I'm sitting on, she can see that too. And perhaps in their reality, it's the same looking planet, a different sort of setup. So it's all there. We could go all day about that, about resonant frequencies and energy fields and things like that. So I mean, she answered yes to a lot of those questions about that. I mean, I'm asking in these EVP recordings. I'm like, are you using that technology? And it's yes. Are you here with me right here? And yes. I have recorded. Can I see a light or vehicle or craft or what we would call UFO? To which, within about 3 or 4 minutes of that request, there was indeed a ball of light seen in the night sky, about a mile and a half up, flying, not blinking, not flashing. It was white. And then I asked the question, can you dim and brighten that light for me? That's a tough one. Now, really, that's really putting it to the test. Can you dim or brighten the light? And then upon request, I said, can you brighten it? The light brightened. Can you dim the light now, Beniico? And the light dimmed. So there was a vehicle. So we have what would be classed as a close encounters. I would say I can't say a CE5 if you're familiar with that. A CE5 event would be a bit much. I'd say a close encounters of a third and fourth kind, because of the fact that this is an ongoing communication live, and I've got a vehicle sighted in the sky not too far away. Again, you're just sitting there. I was gobsmacked. And now you have to do this more than once to satisfy science. So I did it another night. Can I see a light in the sky? Look, I'm not a skeptic. Why do I have to sound like this? I mean, the thing is, look, guys, I want to be able to say this to myself too before I say it to you. I want to be able to say this to me, okay? I don't want to go on the rest of my life asking, but that could have been something else. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. There are, right now, we are in that time frame. There are people with these CE5 events going on. And so contact is, it's not exclusive to me. It is happening with other people. So that's good you noted that. Thank you. Because I mean, what I'm saying is important. What you're saying is important. And whenever I do a video, those comments remain, and that is important. That is noteworthy. Okay. So yeah, that's right. So I mean, I was like, the second night I did this, I'm looking up at the sky and I'm getting these EVP recordings. I'm playing them back and I'm going, okay, can I see a light? And there was one that appeared. It didn't move in the same direction. That's important. It moved in another direction across the sky. It was a little bit lower this time and much brighter. And it moved right overhead. In fact, it was going through the clouds slowly. And again, the same sets of questions were put to it, same sorts of tests. Can you dim and brighten, and it did on request. So I want to, this is me though, this is me. I really throw everything at this, and I'm like, well, without saying what I know you look like, Beniico, I said, can you project an image in my mind? This is not very scientific. What you look like. So I test this entity on the EVP. Can you project in my mind what you look like? Well, nothing happened right away. And I'd say about an hour or so later, I was just kind of relaxing, doing something else, and I began to get a very clear image in my mind appear of this short black-haired girl with a slightly larger skull and these black elongated eyes and a tiny nose, tiny chin, tiny little jawline, but a nice, nice forehead, little ears, in some kind of a it's like a little black outfit or something with like I don't know. It's kind of like a design like this, where it's stand up material, like it's been raised up, and that was impressive for me. It's a personal experience at this point. So during this last week, I went to I went to the Woodland. There was an EVP session with video session that was uploaded to YouTube. I want to cover that. And again, out loud, and the request was, can you materialize in front of me? Can you make yourself present in front of me? Now visually, I saw something black behind the trees. It was short, and I approached it, and I was like, is that you? Can you come out? Can I see you? Um, what I have on the video, what I have sitting on video, is something that's like a band of white, like fireflies, running around in a pattern with some mass behind it. And again, like I said in my other video, what the eye sees, what the digital camera is seeing, may not agree with each other. But again, the mass and the figure was not clear enough. And then, of course, the EVP after that was her saying, "Come back to the force," because the specific question was, I put to her, "I would like very much to see you in person, in right in front of me." Okay, I'm really putting this to the middle. I'm saying, look, I want to see you in person, in front of me. Where I can look right at you, Beniico, right at you. I'm going to get something on camera, something on video, or, if you feel like you want to keep some distance for whatever reason. But I mean, I don't think it's any fear issue or anything like that. I don't know. Should be another question I should be asking. Why the slow kind of workup to this? I mean, it's like maybe she's. Is there a contamination issue? Maybe I haven't thought. There's so many things I haven't thought about. I mean, I don't remember a lot about my experience in 1992 when they brought her to me. I can remember, and I want to note this because I keep forgetting to say it, when I hugged her and she hugged me in 1992 before the soldiers took her away from me, and she was allowed to interact with me physically like that back then. I know that weeks after, I was magnetic. Now that's some people have called it the Hutchinson effect. He's the Canadian researcher who's earned his degree, his professorship in physics, and he's got a YouTube videos up where he can magnetize a frog and living things using radio fields and electromagnetism combined, and it can actually magnetize living things. So it's something that is out there, can be looked at, it's quantifiable. The Hutchison effect, very interesting. I remember waving my hand in front of a TV set. Now the old TV sets back then were cathode ray tubes, and if you waved a magnet in front of them, it messed the TV up. The color warped, everything warped. Well, I waved my hand with no watch or rings on it in front of a TV set, and it warped. Now at the time I was quite distressed about that because I don't know what was going on. I think hugging her, having some interaction with her was something like St. Elmo's fire. I was ionized, heavily ionized and charged by her body, which if she's moving in and out of other dimensions through some higher supercapacitances, this stripping of ions and electrons, this sort of constant molecular stripping is going to leave people rather magnetized. And now they may be rather used to that, and they may have some means of demagnetizing themselves, or maybe they don't even think about that sort of thing. So there could be some reason for a slow walk up to me, or a need to be not jumping in and having some, how you doing, hold hand contact. She wanted to hug me back then, and I wanted to hug her. Okay, so we did, regardless of the consequences. It was harmless. It's a harmless effect, but it's worth noting. If anyone, I can't speak of all alien contact experiences, but if you get people who claim interdimensional alien contact and don't really put that in there and go into some measure of detail about it, I would actually wonder if they're even having that contact at this point. I know Hollywood makes it out like you can walk up and just shake their, like the movie Paul, you can shake their hands and hang out with them, drink a beer, and touch them. But in actual fact, because of their movement through this other dimensions and the technology involved, supercapacitance is involved. And that's a presumption to say that, but I think I'm right in saying it is supercapacitors involved. Um, that you're going to be getting a Hutchison effect almost every time you deal with them. I would imagine the experience would be quite distressing for the novice, and the inexperienced would be quite shaken, traumatized, and freaked out after dealing with them physically. That for I mean, I remember there was a cold sensation moving through my body. There was a constant cold reaction. Now, this is something I've managed to replicate in my own experiments, following on the work of Nikola Tesla and a rather ingenious artist named E.J. Gold. I'll have to get into that Saturday night. But he began building some projects and selling them to the public as beta blockers. And the people wear them as pendants around their necks and things like this. And the basis of this technology, he said he got from a friend that worked in NASA, from some declassified Tesla technology that they had kept secret. And basically what it does is that it involves the use of very, very high voltage capacitors, choke coils, and germanium crystal diodes at the heart of these projects. And I've built many of them. I'm going to share the complete schematics and how I built them Saturday night. So I want everyone to see that. Now, the purpose of them, according to E.J. Gold, was that they were to, and I'm not selling them, I'm not trying to sell these to you, because that would be copyright infringement. I can share with you my research. What you do with it is at your own discretion. But like I said, it's said that these devices help with communication and contact with deceased people, aliens and whatnot. Well, that's an intriguing connection to Dr. Reed's account, my account, Professor Hutchinson's research. You see how it all ties in very neat and nice. So you get like what some would call pseudoscience, and then you get what's actual science, and you start to put this together, and the pieces fit, and you go, wait a minute, it's like a murder mystery. If you can put this here and that here, and some hard theory and suppositional stuff here, and quagmire here, if this stuff matches with this, you've got a picture forming here, what's going on. So, yeah, I mean, in conclusion, thank you all for showing up to this impromptu video. I hope it was helpful. There were some personal things that were brought up, I want to say, because there is this relationship with her between she and I. I don't believe that it's all purely scientific or something like Dr. Greer. I'm trying to help. I want to get up in front of 45,000 people and, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to now, aliens. I mean, it's it's coming from both of us. It's Beniico and I. And I know full well she knows what I'm doing, and that this is something I'm bringing to you. And I know that there are many of them that love many of you, but have a intrepidation in contact due to the fact that there's a lot of Hollywood ruckus that says they're here to kill everybody, invade the planet, or there are people who maybe have had some bad experiences, or they may have just had beings in good intentions trying to reach out to them, but ended up coming away with some very unusual bodily reactions and things like that of that nature. Also, being around telepathic beings can also be its own experience, because your mind is open and it can't be helped. When you're around her, she gives off such a highly charged electrical field. You feel it. You can feel it. I can't describe this, but you can feel your head is just opened right up. There's really no way to describe that. It's like you've got eyes right up around your head, and you're sitting there, you can feel all around your head at this point, and you know what she's knowing in that instant. that can be distressing for first-time experiencers. So there's a lot of things to consider here. It's not about biological contamination. That's basic stuff. I mean, we're talking about how does one do a waltz with another being from another dimension? You know, this is like my guidebook here. Well, I'm J.P. Moss, and well, welcome to the safari. Oh, all right, here we go. um, what can seem or feel distressing or seem unusual, a lot of it is just a well-intentioned civilization with good feelings and good heart trying, sometimes in a haphazard way, on attempts at contact with the human civilization. Um, I mean, that's going to happen. Look, they don't have a guidebook of their own on how to do that sort of thing. They don't have a manual. It's wonderful the human race has come up with Center for UFO Studies, Mutual UFO Network. They've got these wonderfully thick books and training manuals, extensive stuff on how to interview people, how to document UFOs. But there's just seems to be a lacking in literature on the specifics on one-on-one contact. There's classified books on that. Well, there's a certain Team D from the CIA will go in first with a clinical psychologist and a couple of armed people, and they will have to deal with it this way. And it's all about containment, cover up, conceal, and maybe gain a little bit of intelligence and description of who they are, but then walk away. But that can be quite defensive in nature and unfeeling. And I'm with the movement. I know many of you are on progressing the contact further into the 21st century. So long after I'm dead, I'll be gone one day. Generations after us will build on this. Okay, the foundation, build on it, move up, and then there's going to be a more open understanding and dialogue and contact. It's about a misunderstanding. It's like Russians and Americans talking for the first time. It's not about a gesture or wrong word can throw off, be a misunderstanding. It could just be a ship flies over Los Angeles, California, and it discharges a huge supersized blue spark to the ground that happens to strike Disneyland and blow up part of Disneyland. Would you think that's an attack? Well, military might respond to that with that idea in mind. Some people got hurt, but that may have only been a ship, which itself is a supercapacitor, that is simply after moving through dimensions, and because of its mass and matter and size, the physics here, it's simply discharged in that moment. There are instances of crashes that go on. To coin a human euphemism, it's not a perfect universe. Humans also crash in airplanes every day. So I mean, we're not dealing with perfect beings. So I mean, it may be that things like that could be misinterpreted, or someone has an experience with them out in the forest, and they come away feeling shaken and cold and electrical, and they've hit me with some kind of a ray. It may simply have been someone's idea of a handshake, or maybe you got close to somebody that is of another reality that is a little more electrical than what you and I are. Certainly in the relationship with Beniico, there's a lot of love there. And I have to say, as I close this video tonight, there is a lot of love being shared in our little EVP sessions. I would very much like to share that. It's a little private. It's a bit intimate. It's a bit private. I mean, it is a sort of a reunion. But then again, meeting her in the forest out there, some of the stuff she's alluded to has it led me to believe that this kind of may be the beginning of where we met in my lifetime along this timeline. And she's actually projected into my past and is in dealing with me in my past since my beginning, due to the fact that this has happened now. if that makes any sense. I'll have to cover that. Well, it's kind of hard to explain that because of some of the stuff she said from the beginning, the EVPs, and what she's making references to this forest. The forest is old. There's been a lot of folklore around the forest, fairy sightings, wood sprites. These are basically small human-looking people that people have seen for a long time out there, and it's all connected. You know, it's all connected, but it's like it's moving in the other direction. If that makes any sense, it's not moving. It's not like I went to the forest and did I expect to find the conclusion, some final chapter to this. I ended up finding that this is actually possibly the beginning. This is where it began. And how's that possible? Well, theory being, if you could live in the fifth dimension, you could move anywhere you want in the fourth. You could travel anywhere in time, anywhere in history. Well, that's a nice gentleman, that Jason. Let's go into let's share with him. So okay, and it's a bit mind jaunting to think that this is a possibility. Which goes back to the issue of the Mandela effect. You know, you start dealing in time traveling beings, then yeah, you're going to be getting pulled along from one reality to another alternate reality, other Earth, along that way. Pretty wild stuff. But is it all about just analyzing the movement or looking at some energy or hearing something? There's a relationship ongoing here between she and I, a very loving relationship, a very sweet relationship. And I have to say, this last week, I've never been happier. I've never been happier. I mean, the painful memories of seeing her getting harmed by these military people back in 1992 in front of me, as the best as I could ascertain, was their attempt at brainwashing her so that she would think I did that to her. It's just that has always hurt me since those memories came back, since in late 2010. And you see me on YouTube years ago just crying about that, just painfully, just pouring out. When you can spontaneously cry, it is, yes, it's a symptom of a mental illness called post-traumatic stress disorder. It's PTSD right in front of you. And I didn't want to get on anything and cry in front of anybody. But I love her. I felt that love then, and then I see her getting hurt. Anybody you see getting hurt in front of you, anyone, it's gonna affect you very deeply. If you have amnesia forced upon you, or whatever the issue, years on, if it comes back to you, or you lived with the memory, you're gonna walk around with that. That's gonna hurt you. It's gonna be very painful. So in conclusion tonight, I hope to see you Saturday night. But I just, it's us, and I like sharing us with all of you. You're joined in with this little family here. You're involved in this. I really don't want to get on a stage, because I turned down a chance to go to a London conference a few years back for 2 hours. I don't like that. I don't like that kind of thing. It turns you into a very detached person up on the stage, away from people. I like this. This is much more. Well, thank you. I hope to see you here. Okay, hold on. All right, shut the door. Well, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you Saturday night. Thank you for being here. We love you.